Hello everyone, this is Skateman Core from TheKaijudoChannel, and I'm here with another new video segment that I'm going to be doing for now. It's going to be called Top 10 Anything, Top 10 Lists, Top 10 whatever I think of, I'm going to do a Top 10 of. So, to start things off, this week I'm going to do Top 10 Best Nature Cards, in my opinion. Only Nature, no multi-civs or whatever, because that's probably going to be in another video. So yeah, let's just start it off right now. So coming in at number 10 is Essence Elf. It's a level 2, 1000 power creature, and when it hits the board, well, not when it hits the board, but as long as you have Essence Elf on the field, all your spells cost 1 less, but they can't cost less than 1, obviously. If you're running Nature and you're running this card, chances are you can get some pretty expensive spells off really quickly. I mean, just look at Holy Awe example. You could probably get a turn 4 Holy Awe with this on the field, and that's pretty crazy. But then again, you'd have to build a pretty good board presence to make use of the Holy Awe. But it's just a really nice card. It allows you to play a lot of your best spells, a couple turns early, considering you have a lot of mana XL and this card. So, yeah, it's a really awesome card. Coming in at number 9 is Mystic Treasure Chest. Now, this card's a really weird one, but it allowed for a really cool deck idea to happen, or lots of combos and stuff. So what you do is you search your deck, you could take a non-nature card, so you'd have to be running a dual civ or more deck. You take any card that's not nature and you put it in your mana zone. So this can be used in many, many different situations. I mean, it could be used as a slightly cheaper, weakened Crystal Memory in a way, in that you can search for any card you want that's not nature, put it in your mana, and then you could do whatever you want with that card in mana. You could get it back with Thrash Crawler, you could soul swap it out, you could mana Nexus it into your shields. You could do a lot of things with this card, and it's pretty cool. You could also combo this card kind of with Mystic Dreamscape, which is also like Thrash Crawler, except you get 3 cards from your mana zone. And there's a huge combo with like that, Bliss Totem, this card, Mana Bonanza, and all this crazy stuff. So it allowed for all those things to happen. Alright, number 8 is Fighter Dual Fang, Gorby's favorite card. And, well, it is pretty awesome, I do have to admit. So it's a 6-drop 8,000 creature that you evolve over a Beast Folk creature. And there's tons of them in the Nature Civilization. And when you get them out into the battle zone, you put your top 2 cards of your deck into your mana zone. So it's pretty much a double Bronzearm Tribe, which makes sense because it is double Bronzearm Tribe's cost, except you have to evolve it over a Beast Folk. But still, it even gets double Breaker as well. So it's a very nice card to use, and I don't really have much to say. It's just a really, really cool card. Coming in at number 7 is Hardy Cap'n Polygon and Friends. So Hardy Cap'n Polygon is the one I'm going to be talking about mostly, but you could also factor in Sniper Mosquito and Quixotic Hero Swinesout in this as well. So Hardy Cap'n Polygon, he came out in one of the later sets. I think it was like set 11 or something. He made Fire Nature Rush possible, for sure. Because before, I mean, they had, Sniper Mosquito, which was okay, but it's not that good because you have to return a Mana Zone card to your hand every time you attack with it. He's just like, when you break a shield, you bring it back to your hand. And he has 2,000 power for a 1-drop creature, which is really cool. So, comboing that with Gonta and Quixotic Hero Swinesout, all these other powerful nature cards, Fire Nature Rush is a really, really good deck. Coming in at number 6, we have Mana Nexus. It's an awesome card, really, really cool card. So it's a shield trigger, 4-drop card, and you get to take a card from your mana zone, add it to your shields, face down. So right off the bat, you get an extra shield, and chances are, if you're using this card, you're probably going to put like a really expensive shield trigger from like one of your earlier turns and put it in your shields. Like, example, Holy Awe is probably the best example. You could easily take a Holy Awe, put it in your shields, you have an extra shield, and then they kind of have to attack that knowing that it's a Holy Awe, and they have to work their way around things like that. So Mana Nexus is just a really nice card to set up your shields the way you want it to. Number 5 is going to be Rumbling Terrahorn, but you could also include Dimension Gate and Charmelia the Enticer in this number 5 spot as well. And what do? They all search a creature from your deck. Now, Rumbling Terrorhorn's the best one because he's a creature, so you'll have a body on the field, to have field presence while you still get an advantage by getting a creature from your deck. Now, the other cards are just as good as well. Charmeleon the Enticer, you could actually use that as many times as you want as long as it stays on the field, because Charmeleon the Enticer, it's like you could tap instead of attacking with it and search for a creature as well, which is really awesome. And then Dimension Gate is a shield trigger that lets you search, so there's nothing wrong with that as well. It's cheaper to play, and it's pretty good in the Volley Trigger deck, I do have to admit. Alright, coming in at number 4 is Fairy Life, the classic 2-drop shield trigger that just adds a top card from your deck into your mana zone. This card is really, really popular in Japan. I think it is actually the most played card ever out of any card in Duel Masters in Japan. I don't know how to explain it. There's a lot of crazy cards in the Japanese meta that use like mana excel to the max, and then there's even cards that untap all your mana, and cards that like get like all your cards in your graveyard and put in your mana. There's like tons of crazy mana excel things, and Fairy Life is just like the most basic and easiest to play mana excel card. So you obviously had to resort to this card if you were going to do that. And also another card that I'm going to talk about later. Number 3. Number 3 is Natural Snare. Natural Snare is just awesome. It's pretty much the Terror Pit of the Nature Civilization. It's not as good, but it's still pretty good. You can take any one of your opponent's creatures and just put it in their mana zone. So while it is helping them out a little bit, it could actually screw them over in the long run, because think about it this way. Let's say you're going against a control deck, like a Darkness, Fire, whatever control deck, okay? And then you play Natural Snare, and you send their big creature like Bomedius back into their mana zone. What do they do to get it back? I mean, the only option they have is if they're running Thrashcrawler, which I know a lot of control decks do play, but as of late they don't run too many of them. They usually run like 1 or 2. So, while those decks also run like things like Dark Reversal or Morbid Medicine to get back their creatures, well, using Natural Snare puts it in their mana zone, and they kind of have to wait for that Thrashcrawler to get it back. So it really screws them over in the end. Unless you're going against another nature deck in which they just soul swap it back onto the field and laugh at you. Either way, it's still a really good card. Now we're going to the number 2 card of the Nature Civilization, and that would be Bronzearm Tribe. This is easily the most played creature if you're running Nature Civilization. It's so simple. It's just a 3-drop 1000 creature. You summon it, and you get a mana card, a card from the top of your deck into your mana zone. So it's pretty much a Fairy Life, but in a creature, and it's a Beast Folk, and Beast Folk has one of the best support in the Nature Civilization. It is pretty much the race of the Nature Civilization. So, comboing all that together, it's just like, oh, wow, this is just a really awesome, easy card to play. I don't know, a lot of decks just use it. It's just a really, really useful card to get your mana going. And lastly, the number 1 card of the Nature Civilization. You've probably guessed it by now. It is Soul Swap. This is just such a crazy card, and it asked for a ban on the Japanese meta's ban list. They kept on coming up with new versions of this Soul Swap card until they finally found a card that isn't too broken. They pretty much made 2 versions of Soul Swap in which they don't I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they did so many different versions of this card. They did not know what to do with it, and right now it's kind of pretty tame with this card. This card's pretty much dead in Japan, but it's really, really cool. It's so easy to play big creatures with this card. I mean, you put Twin Cannon Sky Terror in your mana or whatever, you play Bronzearm Tribe, get more mana, and then turn 5 or something, you put a 6 card in mana, play Soul Swap, you get your Bronzearm Tribe into your mana, and look, oh, you have 7 mana zone cards, so you say, okay, here you go, Twin Cannon Sky Terror. It's crazy. It's a shield trigger too, and you could even target your opponent's creatures. So there's so much flexibility with this card. It's ridiculous. You could send their whatever they have, Baza Gazelle Dragon, or no, they wouldn't have that because it'd be back into their hand. Let's just go with Bomedius Dragon again, and then you put that in their mana, and then say, okay, bring back, I don't know, this blocker, this little weakling thing or whatever. It could work in either way, and it's just ridiculous. So I think what they did in Japan, I'm not really sure about this, but I think they made it so that you could either only target your own creatures, and then they made another card where you could target your opponent's creatures. So that in that way it was a lot more fair, and I think it wasn't even a shield trigger either. I don't really know the exact details about that. Alright, so that's it for the first ever top 10 list of Duel Masters or whatever. So I'm probably going to go through each of the other civilizations in the following weeks. I don't know what I'll do next. I guess I'll do Light next. Light Civilization is what I'm going to do next. Top 10 Light cards. And I'm going to keep on going until I finish the 5 main civs. And then the 6th week, I'm going to go over top 10, maybe 20 because there's a lot of them, multi-civ cards. And after that, I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing. Maybe go through each of the sets, best cards in each set, or best spells overall. Top 10 decks, maybe. That's another thing I could possibly do. Top 10 anything, really. Maybe top 10 personal favorite cards. I should probably do that. And that should be enough content for the next 3 months, so that when Kaijudo comes out at the end of June, then I could finally do more Kaijudo things. And I'll probably be doing the same top 10 lists for, you know, every expansion that comes out and stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are too. So that's it for this first video of top 10 lists of any sort, and see you next week for the Light Civilization top 10 cards. This is Skateman Corey from the TheKaijudoChannel signing off. See you later, guys.